The StG44, abbreviated to StG44, also known as the Assault Rifle 44 in English, or by its earlier designations as Maschinenpistole 43 or 44, Submachine Gun 43 or 44 in English, is a 3-star AR that's available from both light and heavy production at a timer of 3 hours, drops from many stages from stage 2-4 onwards, and as a career quest reward for clearing stage 2-5, giving the player StG44 at level 20 with 2 dummy links. The StG44's development can be partially traced back to 1918 and Captain Piderit of the Small Arms Examination Committee in Berlin. Piderit submitted a paper arguing for the introduction of an intermediate round in the German army with a firearm to match. The paper argued that most firefights occurred within 800 meters of the target. Therefore, a smaller, shorter, and less powerful round would save on materials, allow for soldiers to carry more ammo, increase firepower, and lessen recoil, allowing for semi-auto or full-auto rifles. The German army showed no interest as it had the MP18 and didn't want to make a new cartridge. 5 years later, in 1923, the German army was looking to replace its Gewehr 98, with the requirements being that it must be shorter, lighter, and have similar performance out to 400 meters as the Mauser, as well as having a 20 to 30 round magazine. Development of the replacement didn't start until the 1930s, with Rheinisch-Westfälisch Sprengstoff presenting the 7x46mm and 8x46mm cartridges, Deutschwaffen- und Munitionsfabriken with their 7x39mm, and Gustav Genschau & Co. with their 7.75 by 39.5mm. Gustav's automatic carbine, the Model A35, was developed into the SG29, but was deemed complicated and unsafe. The German government instead decided to make its own intermediate round and weapon program soon after, having Polt develop the ammunition and C.G. Hanel developing the weapon, both under contract with the Heereswaffenamt with the same requirements as before, but this time being compared to the Kar 98K, as well as having the additional stipulations of it being select fire, having a rate of fire of 450 rounds per minute or under, rifle grenade compatible, reliable, maintainable, and have a straightforward design. 50 prototypes were delivered for field testing in early 1942. During Operation Barbarossa, the German army often came into contact with Soviet soldiers wielding the SVT-38/40 or PPSH-41s, causing German command to rethink their small arms strategy. This led them to select a new design, specifically the Polt 8x33mm Kurzpatron or short cartridge. It used the Spritzer bullet in the basic cartridge design of the 7.92x57mm Mauser, but cut it down to 7.92x33mm Kurz. Though not ideal, it would minimize logistic issues. Contracts for the rifles firing the 7.92x33mm round were issued to Walther and Henel, with both submitting prototype weapons under the name Maschinenkarabiner 1942, MKB-42, or Machine Carbine of 1942. Both manufacturers used a gas-operated action and had select fire, with Henel's prototype being more successful than Walther's. As production moved forward, development was halted by Hitler due to infighting. He ordered new SMGs to be built, but strongly disagreed with the Kurz ammo. To counter this, the Waffenamt Armament Office redesignated the firearm as the MP43, citing it as an upgrade to the existing SMGs. Though it was developed to replace the Kar 98K, it was found that the Kurz cartridge was too weak to fire rifle grenades, too inaccurate for sniping, and too short for using bayonets, leading to the optical sight base, grenade launching muzzle thread, and bayonet lug to be removed. Hitler halted production again after he found out the renaming scheme, though he later changed his mind in September of 1943 when the firearm produced good results. The introduction of the new rifle proved to be too late as logistical issues with the supplying of the rifle and its ammunition, as well as production, proved to be difficult. Some unusual modifications or attachments were made for the StG44, notably the Krummlauf, a bent barrel and periscope attachment for the rifle, supposedly allowing the rifleman to shoot around corners using a 30, 45, or 90-degree barrel bend, though all barrels had short usage spans, with the 30-degree barrel lasting roughly 300 rounds and the 45-degree lasting 160. There is also the Zielgerät 1229 infrared aiming device, codenamed Vampire, or Vampire in English, which used an infrared light and scope that picked up the light to provide a very early version of what would eventually become night vision. The battery for the lamp only lasted 15 minutes and could only be able to sight out to about 200 meters. The StG44 is a gas-operated, long-stroke piston, closed tilting bolt select-fire assault rifle, which fires the 7.92x33mm Kurz cartridge from a 30-round detachable box magazine at a fire rate of 500 to 600 rounds per minute, out to a range of 300 to 600 meters, depending on the firing mode. In her base character art drawn by Hao, 44 wears a white collared shirt with black tie underneath a black double-breasted coat with gold buttons, a red and white interior, a white stripe on the lower arm, and red and yellow stripe on the coattails, a black skirt, white gloves, white belt around her waist with gold buckle, red, black, and yellow armband with gold pin on it, gold aiguillette connecting to a metal plaque, black captain's hat, and black thigh highs with black thigh high, high-heeled boots. She holds her StG44 in her left hand with her finger on the trigger. The StG44 has a leather sling. In her voice lines, voiced by Saho Shirasu, who also voices Mio Kofune in Summertime Renderer, 44 is a neat freak.
ごきげんよう。ああ、握手は結構よ。自分の手を汚さずに済むなんて本当に素晴らしいわ。拡大完了。綺麗な制服も準備してくださいね。子供に囲まれるのは苦手ですわ。服が汚れるから。ですが、ハッピーハロウィン指揮官、無事戻りました。はあ、まずはお風呂に入りますわ。あら、指揮官、どうしてこんな近くに？あなたのことは嫌いじゃありませんけど。本当？いつもご迷惑ばかりかけているのに。では、私も少し寄りかかってよろしいですか？もう、全身が汚れてしまったわ。指揮官、お洗濯の方、よろしくお願いします。ちょっと、私に触らないでちょうだい。最近、シャンプーを買いましたのよ。指揮官、忙しいのはわかりますが、もっと身だしなみに気を使ってください。さあ、私がきれいにしてあげますから。七夕祭り、行きたいけど、服が汚れてしまうわ。どうしましょう。何かご用なら、後にしてもらえますか？まず先に手を洗ってきてください。
Like some ARs, 44's main role is launching a grenade to deal with large groups of enemies. Her singular tile buffs one SMG, buffing their accuracy by plus 60% and evasion by plus 20%. She's best positioned on tiles 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, or 8. At level 10, 44's first skill, High Explosive Grenade, has 44 launch a grenade that deals 4.5 times damage to enemies in a 1 unit radius, 1.8 times damage to enemies in a 2.5 unit radius, and 1 times damage to enemies in a 4 unit radius. This has an 8-second ICD and 16-second NCD. Take note that enemies only take the assigned damage value to the radius they're in instead of cumulative. So an enemy that's within a 1 unit radius takes 4.5 times damage instead of 4.5 plus 1.8 plus 1 times damage. Going from closest to furthest range, enemies take 239, 95, and 53 damage without crits or equips, or 359, 143, and 80 damage with crits respectively. When fully linked, enhanced, and level 100, 44 has 127 HP per link for a total of 635, consumes 60 rations and ammo, deals 53 damage, has 36 evasion, 46 accuracy, 61 rate of fire, 10 move speed, a 20% crit rate, and deals 150% damage on a crit. Base 44 is able to equip telescopic sights, hollow sights, red dot sights, night vision, suppressors, high-velocity ammo, microchips, and exoskeletons. The recommended equipment for 44 is a 5-star scope, 5-star HV ammo, and 5-star light exoskeleton. This gives her plus 20 damage, plus 20 evasion, and plus 48% crit rate. This brings her stats to 73 damage, 56 evasion, and 68% crit rate. Her skill now does, from closest to furthest range, 329, 131, and 73 damage without crits, or 494, 197, and 110 damage with crits respectively. To fully mod 44, she'll need 2,600 menfrags and 90 dummy cores, as well as needing to be at 100 affection for all mod levels, level 100 for mod 1, 110 for mod 2, and 115 for mod 3. This requires roughly 14.5 days or 2 weeks and half a day of grinding the advanced sim for memfrags, though this time can be shorter if there's a rate up. Her rarity goes to 4 stars when modded. In her mod art, drawn by the same artist, 44's outfit has only some minor changes. She still wears the same white collared shirt with black tie, but the shirt has 2 pins on the collar and the tie has red and yellow on it. The double-breasted coat is now in a different style with red and gold on the jacket flaps and multiple gold buttons, a leather belt, gold epaulets, and red and gold cuffs, a black cloak with white interior, white gloves, a black beret with metal eagle on it, black thigh highs, and black and white knee-high, high-heeled boots. She holds her StG44 in her right hand this time, finger off the trigger. The StG44 she has still has the leather sling, but also has the addition of a scope on top. When fully modded, 44 gains extra tiles above and below her, as well as being able to buff ARs in addition to SMGs with the same buffs as before. She now has 130 HP per link for a total of 650, deals 58 damage, has 38 evasion, 50 accuracy, and 66 rate of fire. Her S1, High Explosive Grenade, now does 5 times damage to enemies in a 1 unit radius, 2 times in a 2 unit radius, and 1 times in a 4 unit radius. Without equips or crits, she does, from closest to longest range, 290, 116, and 58 damage, or 435, 174, and 87 damage with crits. At level 10, 44's second skill, Firestorm, gives plus 20% base damage to all grenades, and has them explode 3 times, dealing damage to enemies on the edges of the 1, 2.5, and 4 unit radius. Enemies in these overlapping areas will receive multiple hits. Her S1 now does, and I may be wrong on these calculations, 1,670 damage in the 1 unit radius, 626 in the 2.5 unit radius, and 209 in the 4 unit radius without crits or equips. Or 2,505, 939, and 314 damage with crits respectively. The spec that 44 gets for reaching mod 3 is the 7.92 Cursed, which, when at max calibration and enhancement, gives plus 24 damage. The recommended equipment for modded 44 is a 5-star scope, her spec the 792 Kurtz, and a 5-star light exoskeleton. This gives her plus 24 damage, plus 20 evasion, and plus 48% crit rate. This brings her stats to 82 damage, 58 evasion, and 68% crit rate. Her S1/2 now does, from closest to furthest range, again, my calculations may be off, 2,362, 886, and 295 damage without crits, or 3,543, 1,329, and 443 damage with crits, respectively. I'm going to quickly go over the very few and brief pros of StG44 before I spend the next few minutes talking about her cons. Both base and modded StG44 boast the highest HP stat of any AR, for what that's worth, and her tile buff isn't that bad, giving evasion, which is highly needed for SMGs, and an accuracy buff, which is more for direct fire SMGs, and this can, if you mod her, also affect ARs. Her mod further buffs her stats, which is needed, and her S2 has her grenade explode 3 times, as well as giving plus 20% base damage and overlapping damage, which is missing from her original skill. Now, do not, under any circumstance outside of you being a new player, ever build her mod StG44. She is god-awful. Her S1 is supposed to be like her S2 with the overlapping damage, so that means with the little damage she does do with her grenades, it's lower than it should be. Her base stats are god-awful all around, her tile placement is terrible, both pre and post mod, and, to add insult to injury, M4 is available as a career reward one stage after her, where she's available as a career reward. If you've made the mistake of modding her, StG44 relies on you investing the resources to fully calibrate and enhance her spec. Not to mention, she also has to compete with the likes of Foul, 416, and if you really want to get picky, even though she's shit overall, Sopmod, for Grenadier positions, who, no pun intended, blow her out of the water. The only thing I can recommend using StG44 for is the one free dummy core you get from retiring her. Also, if you ever see a guy named Tom telling you to mod StG44, he's a lunatic and doesn't know what he's talking about. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Twitter for updates, and please check out my other Arknights and Azure Lane videos as well.